So we got some new pretty crazy news on the Dexter universe, a prequel, a sequel, and another potential prequel. So let's get into it, let's talk about it, let's break it all down. Alright, so there's kind of like three prongs to this news. There is the Dexter prequel about him starting out in Miami Metro. There's the Harrison sequel, which I think is the worst of these ideas. And then there's the Trinity prequel or, spin-off or whatever, which apparently they have a couple of those lined up. I guess we'll see. And I always knew Dexter wasn't going to be a property that would lie dead forever. I knew that someone would eventually pick it up. We'd eventually see some kind of continuation. He's just too lucrative to let go. They even had a clause in the original series that Dexter couldn't die at the end of it because they wanted to keep him around in case they could make more money off of him. New Blood happened. Fans were disappointed again, and then we just kind of had to, move on from that. And going off of that, I'm not someone who hates New Blood. I actually like New Blood quite a bit. I think there's a lot that works about it, but I think that there's just a few fundamental kind of things that frustrated me and a lot of other viewers. I was a little bit in denial at first about how kind of bad that ending was. I didn't want it in my head to be as bad as it was, and I kept trying to ignore it, but the one thing about it too that really bothered me was that they set up a Batista reunion with Dexter that we never got. Unfortunately, I don't know, there's just a lot of missed potential there. And the thing that's so weird about this Harrison prequel, to kind of, maybe I'll just start there first, is that they should know the fan reaction better than anybody else. That's the reason they made New Blood in the first place, to kind of right the wrong of what happened in the Dexter finale. But now they're continuing with a character that a lot of people at this point hate. I was a lot less tough on him than most people, but he is a little whiny. He was kind of difficult to be around him. To be honest, I'm just not really interested in watching an entire story just about him. But, I don't want it to be bad, assuming that it can work. I think that the best thing that they could possibly do is maybe get an older actor, kind of go a different route, maybe have him kind of coping with the legacy of his father. Now that the news is out, I assume in this universe, and they find out who the Bay Harbor Butcher really was, I think that we can finally kind of get some closure on that. Kind of maybe see Miami Metro's reaction to everything, maybe some kind of hunt for Harrison. There is an interesting story in there, but I think that you need to age him up a little bit, get a different actor, and kind of just really focus on the idea of legacy and him kind of coping with that. So I think that's the best way that you can make it work. Bring back Batista, Masuka, all those guys. I want to see them actually react to the fact that Dexter was a serial killer all those years. We never got that satisfaction or that closure with those characters, especially with Batista, the way they set him up in New Blood. Never got any follow-up on that, which is disappointing. So, I hope that we could write that at least. Then kind of moving on to the prequel, I like this idea, but the thing is I think there should be a few stipulations. So this show is supposedly about Dexter moving to Miami and them kind of setting up his character, who he becomes and stuff. So I assume you're going to see a lot of his early kills, see him kind of learning to get better at what he does. Because by the time we meet him in Dexter, he's already a pretty proficient killer. He's really good at what he does. He has it down to a science. And then basically throughout the series, he just kind of unravels. He gets sloppier, and that's kind of what undoes him in the end. But I don't think that this series should shackle itself to the previous continuity. I think that we should start with a newer actor as Dexter, start early on and kind of do something completely different, make him have his own take on the character, and then have him kind of develop to almost be that Dexter in his prime that we know, and then take it from there and just have another Dexter series where he's not kind of in his prime, but just keep in that continuity with that prequel self. I don't think they should call it Dexter Origins or some stupid shit like that. They should just make this a new Dexter series, but start younger, show and really kind of catalog his younger years and him kind of developing into this, apex predator that he is. It would be an interesting and different take, because when we met up with him in the first season, you get some flashbacks of him learning the code and stuff, but you don't actually see him kind of develop. You don't really see his earlier kills, you kind of just see his first one, and then some of the other ones sprinkled throughout. But, you know, I think that they should show this kind of beta phase where he's getting better at it and he's learning each time and he makes mistakes and he almost gets caught. I think that would make for a really interesting series. But I also was always hoping that they would kind of recast Dexter and go in a different direction. I was hoping maybe they could do a movie series or something. I think that there's something to be had there. So whatever they do with that prequel, I'm definitely bought in, I'm interested, and I'm a lot less hesitant than the Harrison sequel, because I just think that this is inherently a lot more interesting and easier to pay off. Plus, I watch Dexter to watch Dexter. I don't want to watch his whiny son. I'm not as interested. But, you know, hopefully this sells me, and I really hope they do not try to shackle themselves to the continuity of the original show, and just kind of go its own direction so that we could develop a new Dexter for a new age. But now for kind of the weirdest of the three ones that were potentially announced. This one's in the works. This one's not official yet like the other ones. Potential Trinity spinoff and maybe some other characters. This one has a lot more of an interesting concept, I think, than the Harrison sequel. It's also a lot less obvious. You could tell throughout New Blood that they were potentially trying to set up Harrison to carry his own show. I don't think that they really positioned him that way, and I don't think it works. And I think that they'd have to do major changes to the character to make that work. But Trinity just has so much history, lore, and he just spans through so many decades. He's, you know, in this universe, I think, one of the most prolific serial killers. So I think there's a lot of story to tell, kind of how he developed his family, kind of how he ended up coercing them into almost being an accessory to his lifestyle. He is a very scary character. He's a very interesting character. I think it would be very difficult, not that Michael C. Hall is any walk in the park to recast, but Trinity was just such a unique performance, and John Lithgow was just such a masterclass actor that I really don't know how a new actor could kind of put their spin on it without trying to do an imitation of him. But, you know, however, I would be there. I'd be a lot less hesitant about it than I would about a Harrison series. I think that just by its nature is doomed to fail a lot more than this, unless they could get some crazy good writing and a new actor. But again, we'll see. Just Trinity by itself, he has a lot more fanfare, he has a lot more praise, he's a lot more interesting. So in the end, I'm not really sure how any of these will turn out. I think I have the most hope for the prequel, for Dexter, assuming that they just go a different way, do something different, and they just position this actor to be our new Dexter. But overall, you know, as a Dexter fan, he's one of my favorite characters of all time. I am happy to see this series continue on, even if it's kind of in less obvious ways. I just hope that they don't fuck it up. I just hope they don't do anything stupid. But, you know, of course, us Dexter fans are used to getting let down. Even if I'm not nearly on as much of the hate camp as a lot of other people, I just kind of want a more satisfying kind of ending to this character. So, you know, maybe another version will get that, hopefully. But I would love to see a very long spanning Dexter series that takes him and chronicles him from his younger years in Miami Metro, and then just develops him, like almost like an approach that the Batman took last year, where they have very much a younger Batman who's not fully his character yet. He's still developing into the Batman we know and love. I think they should do that with this, have a younger Dexter who is Dexter. He's the serial killer. It's all happening during that time, but he's not as proficient, not as good, not as smart, and not as well calculated yet as he eventually becomes. And then we get to see him become that, and then it's just all the more satisfying when we get that ultimate version of Dexter. Let me know what you guys think. Are you excited for these? You know, we'll see how it goes. Let me know in the comments. Have a good one.